Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you guys very much for opening up your schedules and meeting with me today after school. I know it's been a long day and I appreciate you supporting greatly, your support greatly. Before we get started, I would like to remind us of our norms. Okay, so go ahead and type in the chat the number that represents the norm you would like to ground yourself in today for our meeting. Number 1, being fully engaged. Number 2, assuming positive intent. Number 3, being direct, courageous, and respectful. And number 4, considering the third way. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing. I see them coming in. Great. Mr. Doling, which teacher would you like to share your norm, please?
Yeah, my norm is to assume positive intent. I think that's one of the things that really helps us. It actually helps us with the other 4 as well, right? Because we're more open to considering the third way. It's easier to be direct, courageous, respectful, and to be fully engaged.
Thank you.
Mine is to be fully engaged. I am open to learn from you guys. So I'm happy to be here and happy to keep learning.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it. Prior to this meeting, we did take some time to review the results from our last MAP fluency assessment and also our weekly reading assessments and analyze the data. So the purpose of this meeting is to plan some action steps to address the lower than expected results that we obtain in our dual language classes. I know we've had a challenge because of how our classes are structured. We have a lot of English native speakers and our English language learners, and we both together in a class, and we need to be very strategic about how we can effectively provide the support to our scholars while still immersing them in both languages. Okay, so what I want us to do right now is just to kind of take some time to go around the room so that everyone can share out one specific trend of area of growth that you found in the data of student work. So just take some time and kind of think about, look at your notes, look at those trends, look at the data, so that you can share out one thing that you noticed, and we can create an action plan around that. Okay, so I'll give you guys 45 seconds, okay? I'm looking through my data. Do we need more time to look at our notes and our data trends? No? You good? Thank you, guys. Okay, so what were some gaps or some misconceptions that you guys noticed within our data?
I can go ahead, I can share. So I noticed that those students who showed their work refer back to text to highlight or underline their responses. These scholars score much higher than those who did not show their work. So most students did not annotate or refer back to the story because they struggle to simply read.
Okay, thank you for that insight. I really appreciate it, Miss.
I agree. Some of the things that I noticed in my informal observations was that the students that are like English native speakers, they probably need to focus more on phonics because they're having a difficulty with reading, with actually decoding, and it's impacting their comprehension. I noticed that they guess the words based on the first letter, and usually they don't go back and check to see if that word makes sense. So they need to use their decoding strategies. Like overall, they're struggling with decoding, which is impacting their fluency and comprehension, basically.
Okay, so let me just summarize what you guys said to make sure that I captured everything you guys said. So what I heard is students need to consistently show their work by annotating properly. I have a stronger focus on explicit phonics instruction and focus differentiating foundational reading strategies for English speaking and Spanish speaking scholars to make sure that they are strong in their first language. Good morning, Mr. V. Thank you for meeting with me this afternoon. I really appreciate it.
Morning.
The purpose of our meeting is to kind of debrief on the action plan process we have experienced up to date. My goal is to continue improving our collaborative abilities, but before we start our own reflections, I would like to ground us in some norms. Okay, you're familiar with our norms. Consider the third way, assume positive intent, be fully engaged, and be direct, courageous, and respectful. So if you would take one of the norms that you want to ground yourself in this afternoon.
You know me, I'm not going to be able to just do one. I'm going to do both of the ones that I really like. And the first one is I want to be direct, courageous, and respectful. I feel like it's been really like a great point for us to share those ideas that sometimes we feel vulnerable to share with. Sometimes we get a little distracted, so being direct is a good thing. And then the last one is to be, I want to consider the third way. You know, I've learned that I don't always have the answers. And though I don't like to admit it to you often, you know, sometimes we're benefited from hearing that perspective from the outside. And it's been very useful to us lately. So those are the two that I'm going to stick to, right?
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you being direct. Thank you for sharing. I would like to ground myself on being, again, like you mentioned, direct, courageous, and respectful myself. We all have great ideas and reflections to share. And one way to support the growth of this or any collaborative team is definitely by being direct, courageous, but overall maintaining that mutual respect. We are professionals with one goal in mind, and that is our student achievement. So with that being said, thank you very much. We can go ahead and get started. Again, thank you very much for completing your pre-work and the survey that I sent out last week. The purpose was to have those reflection questions in your hands prior to our meeting this afternoon. So it would give you time to reflect on our whole process in the collaborative team and the actions plans we have taken, and provide your valuable input to help this process grow in the future. So are we good? Do you have your notes, and just in case, I don't know if you wrote them.
I got the notes right here.
Okay. So what was something that you really liked about this collaborative process, and why? And also, what was the impact that it had on you?
Yeah, so
Mr. B, I'll be taking notes. If I'm not looking directly at you, I'm taking notes about what you're saying.
Sure. There's actually, you know, I came up with a couple of things, if you don't mind me sharing more than just one.
No.
Okay. So like one of the things that I really enjoyed was just how we approach things with the different skill sets. You know, I mentioned beforehand that the third way is one of the things that I'm learning to embrace. And I feel like this process really helped me see that. There are advantages that you had, there are advantages that I had, some of our other members had. And being able to kind of like put that down for a second, listen to the other side, and together we, you know, as the saying goes, alone I go fast, together we go far. And we went really far because of our collaborative efforts. So I really enjoyed the piece where I felt like you were really good about engaging all of us and all of our different perspectives. The other thing I really enjoyed was the structure that you implemented with setting out the pre-work and the surveys. I really feel like, you know, I had an idea of what it is that I could expect to come into these meetings. Like right now, I feel like I had a pretty good idea of what it is that we're going to be discussing. It helped get my mindset into that framework. It produced, I think, more efficient work. And then we were all coming at it with a lot of considerations already in place, and with a more facilitated attitude towards coming up with that third way, you know? So those are the two things that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the collaborative atmosphere. I enjoyed being stretched in that sense. And then I really enjoyed the structure that you gave even beforehand so that we could lead into something better.
Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing all this information. And you're right. Sometimes just getting the information ahead of time does help kind of set our mindset for that meeting. So I appreciate you being direct. Going on to the next thought or question that I had was, did you feel like the framework we implemented fostered a culture of collaboration within our team?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like I was telling you beforehand, like you really set up the structure to it. Like we knew what to expect at these meetings. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to meetings where you don't know what it is. You just have to be there at a certain time. And so you come in cold, and really your pre-work was kind of like a warm up, but it was a warm up for all of us, and all of us had to warm up in our own unique ways. And then you were methodical in the way that you prompted and probed each one of us to ensure that we were collaborating with each other. Your structure during the meeting ensured to have times for each one of us to actually go and collaborate, for us to share those perspectives. There was moments for reflections. And then you were very good about, communicating through email, the check-ins, the text messages, through meetings. I feel like you were methodical in it, and I feel like it really, it created a sense of collaboration. Like we all felt like we were working together towards it.
Okay, sorry, let me finish making this note. That's a lot of good information. I'm glad you feel that way.
I should have considered the third way of slowing down when I talk, so you can take notes.
No, you're fine. Okay, so thank you again for sharing that reflection. Do you feel like everyone contributed to the process equally, or not? Or why do you think that? Why or why not?
That's one of those things where, like, at the beginning, I was mentioning to somebody else, like, I've gone to so many meetings where you feel like all you're doing is like just nodding yes. Today's going to be a great day. Yeah, sure. This is the way that we're going to move forward. And there's almost like these opportunities for us to participate, but then our participation is completely disregarded. And one of the things that I was speaking to somebody else about recently, we were commenting on the fact that, when I had something to say, I felt like it was genuinely considered, and it was never disregarded. It may not have been acted upon, or it may not have led the decision, but it contributed to the decision-making process. I feel like all of us were a part of it. The person that I was speaking to, I don't want to speak on their behalf. The person that I was speaking to felt the same way. Like they were articulating that, when we come to these meetings, there is a moment, and it's intentional how we consider each other's perspective, and it actually engages us to participate more. Like if you know that you're going to be heard, it really leads you to wanting to participate. And then you're methodical in how you approach it. So you would make sure to poke and prod. And so, but it's easier for us to be poked on those questions, or be not poked, but to be engaged on those questions when I know that you're not just simply disregarding it. Like we're all purposefully here in this meeting. So I do feel like everybody contributed. Did we all contribute in different ways? Yes. Do I feel like all of our contributions were equal in their worth? I would say yes. But obviously we all had certain positions where we could, like there's a speciality that I come with, and I'm able to be engaged with that speciality. And so each one of us contributed our own unique ways with equal worth.
Okay, I'm glad you feel that way. And I'm glad you see that our collaboration was all, notice the strengths that we all have. We all brought in those strengths to the table, and we elaborated on those strengths. So thank you for pointing that out. I'm very, very glad you feel that way. It was truly a team effort. Through this process, each of you held each other accountable too. So as you were mentioning how everyone had their own different way of bringing their strength to the table, which in return helped me to stay on top of our action plan and to communicate daily of all the happenings or all of our updates. Our focus and our commitment towards implementing new practices such as aggressive monitoring, or I keep calling it aggressive monitoring, feedback for learning and growing, really pushed us to meet our campus goals or campus needs, not goals. We're still trying to reach those goals, right? But our campus needs. So now thinking about ways to improve this process for the future, what part of the process could have been improved to elicit more collaboration from our team members or from the staff itself?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, was I mentioned that at the beginning it was difficult because sometimes we'd come to a consensus, we'd leave the meeting, and we had a change of perspective. I felt like there was something that we needed to do to change direction. But you were very receptive to that. So it's almost like it's hard to come up with that, because when I messaged you, we met together, we had the quick huddle up, and very quickly, because we had such a good structure at our initial meeting, we're able to redirect and organize like all together as a consensus on that goal as a whole. So I actually feel like you're doing a great job. The changes that we needed to make happened.
with our ability to flex, and your communication really enabled.
I think we're doing a great job.
Absolutely. We're doing
Absolutely.